Okay, I want to explain, why I'm interested in this, the Spring Flex technology and where it's all going for me. And this actually relates closely to your project as well. You'll use the same technology, very similar. And this kind of has some history in it, kind of where we met. And what happened here is first I was manager of instructional design at University of Cincinnati, and then I transferred over to NKU with I think it was about a $30,000 increase in pay. That wasn't a hard transfer. And I became director of instructional design at Northern Kentucky University, and I ran a flex team there actually for like 3 years, and of 6 designers and a full-time guy. And I brought them in, and I would actually sit with the student designers, and after 6 weeks they were flex programmers. Their heads were spinning by the end of it, but they actually did real well. Now all those guys that I trained, they actually have really good jobs. Matter of fact, when I was working at the bank, I actually called them and said, "Hey, we need some guys over here. Can you come?" And says, "No way, we're swamped. We don't want to go there." So they're doing very well. And so I think what happened though at the end of that 3 years, even though I did tremendous work there, the economy went bonkers and still is, and I got bumped. And so I had a year-to-year contract, and they just basically across the board just canceled everybody with high salaries. And my salary was way too high for the university. And so they sent me out into the unknown, and so I decided to go back to graduate school for a year. And so I started working on my dissertation in instructional design. And actually I went back and I had to take physics courses, so I was taking quantum mechanics again. This was UCF. It's actually only one of the few in the country that has, in the physics department, an educational emphasis. And so I could do a degree on something that I do every day, and that's at build learning management systems. So I met you in that process, and that's when I was a starving graduate student. And I haven't let you go yet, because I'm so thankful, because you actually helped us through some difficult times. So that I appreciate that. And so you get the benefit of actually now being trailed along into more deep technologies as we move along with this. I'll probably erase all this from the video, but I want to tell you that. So that's where it was. And so during this time where I got bumped off of NKU, I decided to go ahead and go back to graduate school for a year. And like I said, everything. I was doing quantum mechanics after, I guess, 20 years, but actually I did very well. I made A's in all my quantum mechanics classes. I couldn't figure out why I could still remember all this stuff, and it's just because I do programming all the time. It's in the same part of my brain. So anyway, here we are. My dissertation basically going to be an open source 3D LMS, and that's a 3D learning management system. And I already have a few colleges lined up to use it. It's not even written yet. So you may have heard of these universities using stuff like Blackboard and WebCT, and these are all Java-based systems, but this is actually going to be a FlexRIA system on a Java backend. So this is actually the graphic for my dissertation, and I'll just go through it real quick so you understand what's going on. Of course, ultimately you want everything to go mobile, and as I said earlier, we used to tell people go global, now we're telling people go mobile, because it's like the third eye. Your TV's sitting at home, your computer you lug it around, but your phone's with you wherever you go. And already, that's the market. I mean, even though stores are closing all around during Christmas, the mobile phones were packed. The mobile phone stores were packed, and so that's really where it's all headed. And these devices are getting cheaper, and they're extending the lines and making them more powerful. So that's where you want to get your applications up. And one of the things I've mentioned to you already is that running that from the cloud is going to give you a lot of power even overseas, so you get a full global extension, and that's what we're interested in doing. You not only want it to be inexpensive, and the thing about it, the cloud will scale up with your application as it gets larger, but you also want it to be powerful to give you leverage worldwide, so you get both the global and the mobile from the cloud. Okay? So what is the app? How's the app, my learning management system, different than what you might get in Java or with another PHP type system like Moodle, for example? Well, basically it's built on the FlexRIA. It is a rich internet experience. So RIA stands for a rich internet application, and I think you've seen that before. Okay, and so that's why we're using Flex Builder or Flash Builder called Flex 4. Now the neat thing about that is that Flash or Adobe is about to release Molehill, which is going to plug into a 3D API, and so now you can have very fast, 1,000 times faster 3D on the web. And that's the whole thing with physics. You don't want to do a 2D experience. You want a 3D experience where people can touch and handle the 3D objects and move them around. So on top of that will be a physics engine that I built with that. Will be part of my dissertation. Ho-ho! So actually my physics come into play. And that's the top, that I am pretty much a specialist at. I am totally, like, one of the best anywhere in this area right here. Alright? All of this sits on top of the Java system. Alright? Which is called Spring Hibernate. And the way you talk back and forth between Flash Builder and Spring Hibernate is through BlazeDS. Okay? Now, I put a little graphic here just to tell you, look what's going on here. I've got this, people ask me, hey Mike, why do you want to do 3D? And the reason that I want to do 3D is because the most powerful processor in your mind is the visual cortex. I mean, you've heard the old adage, a picture is 1,000 words. And that's what draws people in interactively. So it's very powerful because you stimulate the entire brain, and you can get a lot of information into someone's head if you go 3D. And so, a matter of fact, I did a study once with a group that actually won first place in a National Tech Explorer Award, and it was on 3D and learning. And we did an algebra class where we actually accelerate learning using a role-playing game, 3D role-playing game, accelerate the learning potential of about 1,000%. It was insane. So and you see it all day long, these kids are totally engaged in these 3D role-playing games. And this is what you want to bring into education. So that's the framework. That's what I'm building my dissertation on. And this is very similar to the e-commerce system that you'll be building as well. I mean, just the same framework. It just is no longer, you just don't use Flex. Since you're not programming the learning environment, you're just programming a catalog, for example, e-commerce catalog. All right? So I would suggest the same framework for your thing. And since I'm doing my open source, you can just take my code. Yeah, so you just, I'm going to be building this as we move through, so just use my code. Because it's open source and anyone can use it. Okay, great. You're welcome. And so, and there's a lot of people in line right now. I mean, I got some stuff with NKU and with Daymar, and UCF is, of course, doing the dissertation. And then I've got a few other universities that are interested. I'm talking to Kent State right now. We'll see what goes on there. So it's like the problem with the present learning management systems. They're not interactive. They're not RIAs. Where this will be one of the first RIA interactive learning management systems. Done a lot of research on this. Very excited about this. And so, like I said, since it's built in the same framework of where you're headed, this should be enjoyable for both of us. Okay, so basically the elements of dissertation is very simple. We're going to have Adobe Flash Builder for rich internet applications. We're going to use BlazeDS for remoting. Spring Hibernate is a framework application that sits on top of and communicates with the data sources. Molehill is going to be that 3D API, and I wrote the book Paper Vision 3D, so I'm just waiting. I'm on edge for this to come out. So, and then of course Amazon services and Google Apps. I didn't list that here. Can be used to actually extend functionality around the world and give you that online cloud presence. Okay. So here we are, and I think we already went through our first assignment, and we're going to install the Tomcat server today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this video, save it, and then we're going to talk about installing the Tomcat server, and then I'll start the video again, and we'll actually get you working on installing Tomcat server, okay?